5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good evening, good evening. This is the first time I have said good evening to you, and that is because it's the first time I've taken an evening drive. You are on a live night drive now with SafariLIVE. WildEarth, my name is James Henry. This is not in fact a giant pimple or chorb on my right cheek. It is a microphone. Its design is more mystifying than the Nazca lions, of course, of South America. On camera this evening we have got Bryan, and you are on a live night drive. That's Bryan's thumb. It's very beautiful. Now, we had an update from Lucy in Indiana to say that there was some impala alarm calling around the Juma Dam camp, and so that's where we're heading right now. Now, you may be wondering why we're driving about here in the pitch black darkness. Well, there are a number of reasons for it. Basically, this is a test to see exactly how we can facilitate the night drive experience, because many of the most interesting creatures of the wilderness are found knocking about in the night. And that's simply because they want to avoid being eaten, and sometimes they are in fact the eaters, the lions and the leopards and the hyenas. I not really have a plan for this evening. I've got to try and figure out exactly what's happening out here, so we'll just keep going. But you are welcome to talk to us. In fact, the more you talk to us, the better, simply because I'm not sure how much we're going to see. Hashtag SafariLIVE or questions at wildearth.tv. Now we're just going to head across to the pan here and check if there's anything suspicious going on. There's some impala sleeping over there. We're not going to shine on nocturnal animals, in case, at least diurnal animals. They will be disturbed by the spotlight shining on them. The nocturnal animals don't tend to mind so much. So there are some impala in the clearing there. We'll leave them be with the spotlight. And while we're checking out what's happening down here, let's head across to Brent Leo Smith. He is driving with a special new camera, and we'll get an update from him, and I will catch you, well, somewhere in this dark night.
So, a dark welcome from the deep African night. Unfortunately, the weather didn't play along with us. We're trying to use a high ISO camera in the moonlight, and there is a big blanket of cloud over us. But our cameramen, like the presenters, we can produce unicorns. We've made our own moon, so the cameramen have been hard at work, and they've attached two big diffusal lights behind Wium, and Wium's on camera. And we're actually going to now try head towards the last position of the Nkuhumas pride. Hopefully they haven't moved too far. So while we make our way towards, I'm going to be using the spotlight. But if we find anything, we're going to put on these big diffusion lights and see if we can operate in sort of a nice blanket of light around us. So really, really exciting. And hopefully we're going to find you some cool stuff. Also, interestingly, 80% of the interesting smaller mammal species, particularly the little carnivores, only come out at night. Things like civets and white-tailed mongoose, serval, bush babies, and also other strange creatures like aardvarks and pangolins. Now, with the draft we're having and going out at this time of the evening, it does give us a good chance of being able to find such creatures. Sorry, we're just having a little technical problem here. I think my one mic's died. Just stand by one. I'm just trying to have a look here. I'm just going on there. I think I'm gonna, I just need to, there we go. So while we sort that little audio issue out quickly, let's hop along to Mr. Hendry, who's on the other vehicle.
Well, it seems that it's not only the eyes that don't work so well at night. Apparently, it is also the vocals and the ears. Anyway, Bryan and I are going to go to the hyena den now. Now, we are not going to shine a light there. It's going to be probably more of an auditory experience. If there was a full moon, which, well, there is a full moon, of course, but it's blanketed by clouds, then we might be able to get some sort of action there. But let's just go and have a listen. I did hear them calling there a little bit earlier, so I think it'd be quite nice to just drive in there and have a listen. We don't want to shine a light on the den with the little cubs there, because I think they're a little bit young and their eyes are not quite as fully developed as the adults. So we'll just pop across there and have a little listen. Jen, you want me to try and find a serval? For those of you who don't know, a serval is a sort of leopard-coloured cat, just bigger than a large house cat. And it's a very beautiful thing with big ears and long legs, and it jumps up and down and pounces on bushveld gerbils. That's what it eats. But Jen, if I can find one, I assure you I will show you. I would love to see one too. They can be nocturnal, but I think that they're more secretive than they are nocturnal, to be honest. We have seen one, I've seen one here, Brent has seen two since he's been here, so they're not very thick on the ground, but maybe we'll be lucky. It is night time after all. I'm hoping to see a civet. I see their tracks every morning. I've never seen one here though at night, so I'm hoping to see a civet because I think they're probably quite common. Maybe a genet or two, and possibly even a chameleon. Right, Brent has sorted himself out. Let's head across to him. He's got some ponies.
So here we are with the striped ponies, and you can see they're actually outside of the edge of our light, but there's enough light being thrown by these side lights and diffusal lights that we can actually see them really nicely. You can even see the lights of the communities in the background and the orange glow from human habitation. So now the lions were not too far from here. Isn't this quite incredible? It's a very different experience. So the zebra have moved onto this nice open area to spend the night to try and ensure that they're not snuck out upon by a big cat. Hello, little one. So there we go. You can see Wium's playing with the ISO settings there. So this way we are able to view some of the traditionally diurnal animals because we're not shining spotlights on them, so we're not affecting their visibility. Isn't that absolutely incredible? Now, we're going to be doing quite a bit of testing, so we do excuse if there's lots of movement and changes in the lights, but we're not too far away from where Scotty left those lions. And we really love the fact that we're able to take our viewers behind the scenes on these incredible things like we're doing at the moment. And it is just helps to keep you guys up to date with what we're thinking about and what we're doing and the really exciting innovations that are coming in the next couple of months. There should be a full moon, or there is, not should be, but there is definitely a full moon out there, but it is hiding behind the clouds. Nancy's wondering, what is my experience with moonlight in the bush? Well, Nancy, I've spent some wonderful evenings out in the bush under the full moon, and it does create really spectacular vistas around you. But I think for me, one of the most incredible places to be when there is a full moon is the Makgadikgadi salt pans in Botswana. It's a salt pan the size of Switzerland, and it literally feels like you're on the moon. Stark white, cracked ground. Very, very interesting bush baby place to be. Hopefully it's not a Speedy Gonzalez one. Got him there, Wium? Oh, okay. So let's see, I've turned off the spotlight now, and we can see with this a little bit lower. There we go. A little bit, there he is. Look at that. A little South African galago. And now we very busy little guys. Off he goes. He's actually coming towards us. Just gonna try to figure out where he's gone. You've still got him there? I can see the branch moving. I'm using the white light just to try to get his eyes to reflect so we know exactly where he is. Or the yellow light, sorry. Well, he's disappeared. Incredible little creatures. So they are primates. So they're one of the 4 primate species we get in the Sabi Sands. The most obvious one is, of course, the one we see the most of is the vervet monkey, the chacma baboon, and then 2 species of bush babies. Up here in the northern Sabi Sands, in particular on Juma, we only have the little guys, the South African bush babies or South African galagos. But down on the Sand River and the Sabi River, you have thick-tailed bush babies as well. I'm looking carefully. There should be a branch on the road from where Scotty had the lions. So there we go. We are working through that list of interesting mammals to see at night. And tick number 1, the South African bush baby or galago. Especially on a really dark night. There's not a twinkle of a star, all covered and hidden by that thick layer of cloud. No, I'm not copying FC. There we go. Okay, I'm back. It seems we've got a little bit of a loose connection on the comms box. So good evening from deepest, literally darkest Africa this evening. And Fanny in Texas would like to know, are there any birds we get at night? There are. Particularly 2 that fly at night. There's the branch in the road that's got left so we can find them. And the 2 bird species, of course, the owls being one. Some incredible owl species here. As well as nightjars. Nightjars, little insectivorous birds. Hopefully we will be able to find one. Be with you guys a second. I'm just looking. I think these lines have got up and moved, I'm afraid. So I can see this is where the vehicle tracks stop. And I don't see any kitty cats. So we're going to keep searching. I'm going to see if the lions have possibly moved back towards Sydney's waterhole or towards Viewer Access. While we do that, let's go see what Commander Bond is up to.
Now, we have come to the hyena den, where, as I said, we're not going to shine on the den itself. This is Corky, I think. This is probably Corky. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I'm basically swallowing this microphone. I'm not sure... Sorry, my train of thought, of course, has now disappeared, but it has returned. So we think this might be Corky, and we are not shining on the actual den itself, so I don't know who's there. I suspect that because she's here, the little ones are probably there. They're just behind her there. And we're also not putting a spotlight on her. We've got these sort of diffused light floodlights on the side of the vehicle, and that's what we've put on her. And so, although your picture looks pretty bright, it's really not nearly as bright in real life. Now, what I'm going to ask you all to do, just for 15 seconds, please do this with me. I'm going to ask Nikki to turn up all of the sound, and then we're going to be quiet for 15 seconds. And I'm going to ask that you shut your eyes completely so that you are going to experience the dark that I'm going to. I'm going to turn the lights off. So in 5 seconds, you're going to shut your eyes and just listen carefully. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that was our little experiment. All I can hear, well, I heard two things. The first thing I hear consistently is the beautiful call of the fiery-necked nightjar. And that is supposed to sound like, "Good Lord, deliver us. Good Lord, deliver us." And because of that, it is known also as the litany bird. The litany, of course, as far as I understand it, is an order of service. I think that's how it works. And the other thing I could hear, of course, was a child a child laughing across at the camp. We're not too far from the camp, but of course sound does come right across the land. Now, why are we sitting here with this hyena? Who's keeping an eye out? I think that must mean that the cubs are around at the den. Gracie, hello. I hope you're feeling better today. And you want to know if it's scary in the dark. Gracie, it would be scary if we were walking around, or if we didn't have any lights at all. Then it would be scary, because we as people, of course, can't see very well at night with our normal eyes. And animals like this hyena and lions and leopards and all the little cats, they see very well even in the darkness. And so it would be scary to walk around without a vehicle and without lights, Gracie. But because we're in the car and we've got lights that we can use, it's not scary at all. It's actually just wonderful. We can hear different sounds. We can hear crickets calling. And we can hear the nightjars calling. There are no owls at the moment. I was hoping to hear some owls. And Andreen, you want to see a honey badger. Gerda, you want civets and jennets. Maurice, you want to find a snake. That is possible to find a snake, Maurice. We'll do our best. Snakes do shine if there's climbing in trees, wormslang especially, and vine snake. And as Gerda has pointed out, and as I was just saying, the fiery-necked nightjar is calling off to the southwest of us now. It's also interesting, Bryan, can you smell the den? I think it smells quite a lot stronger than it does in the day.
Oh, definitely.
The den smells pretty dirty. The den is just behind the hyena there. Okay, I don't think we're going to spend any longer here. There's obviously no action going on here. Apparently she was covered in blood earlier today with Jamie. Her face was covered in blood and her paws were covered in blood, and now she seems to have cleaned up her act a bit. She's been playing nursemaid here. We're going to pull out and see if we can find some of those civets and jennets and honey badgers and perhaps a snake or two. While we're doing that, let's head across to Brent, get an update from him, and I'll catch up with you later.
So there we go. We have found the Nkuhumas. Oh, listen. It sounds like they're about to start roaring. Wasn't that amazing? Some lazy roaring as well, from not even lifting their heads. Flop back down. So the fifth lioness, who's lying a little distance away from these four, started roaring, and 3 of the 4 here responded. And that last lioness on the right was roaring directly at us. And definitely at a different sort of decibel to a male, but still, nonetheless, absolutely amazing. So they're proclaiming their territory. So lions roar generally for 2 reasons. And one is to let all the other lions know that this is their territory and they shouldn't come here. Otherwise, they'll be asking for a fight. And secondly, it's to find each other. Now, Nick is wondering, do lions only roar at night? No, Nick, they do roar during the day sometimes, but it is more common for them to roar from sunset through to sunrise. But they do roar in daylight. Specifically if they feel there's a threat around, another pride that might be creeping into their home range, or if they've lost each other, a female's been off mating and now she's far away from the rest of her pride, she will roar to come into contact with the rest of her pride. And there's not even a breath of wind. And can you believe we had the Nkuhuma pride calling out their dominance live from the middle of Africa. Well, not quite the middle, the southwest of Africa to be more precise, southeast, sorry, to be more precise. And we're sitting on a Juma private game reserve at the moment. Now, Penelope's stated something quite interesting. She says, now every herbivore around is running for their life. Well, you'll probably find quite the opposite, Penelope, that when a lion is roaring, it's not a threat to the herbivores. They're not hunting, so they're just letting everyone know, all the other lions know that they're here and this is their part of the world. So the herbivores are actually probably slightly relaxed, more relaxed than when they hear a lion than when they don't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Wium to take the ISO down so you can see what, if I wasn't watching my monitor and Wium wasn't looking through his camera, what we would be seeing. There we go. So there is a little bit of light reaching the one lioness, but we wouldn't. Oh, we're going to jump across to James with a bush baby.
a little bush baby, everybody. I know Brent found one. They always remind me of Mowgli. Not Mowgli. Look, he's coming, he's coming. Look at him, look at him. This is incredible.
Oh, lost him.
He's right in here. I can't see him either. There, he's in the top. Somewhere. How amazing is that? Oh, goodness, that's wonderful. He looks like Gizmo. I mean, Gizmo from that dreadful film, The Gremlins. That's what they look like. Isn't he wonderful? Little primate. I know you did see one with Brent, but that one was just particularly confiding. Wasn't he great? I thought he was going to jump on the bonnet here. He would have burnt his hands. That would have been marvellous. They are so cool. Now, Karen, you're in London and you are correct. Please excuse me if I don't make enough or too much eye contact with you during the drive. It is because I am trying desperately to shine the spotlight and find things with it, and then watch the road, of course. Karen, you are, I think, an ex-Zimbabwean, and you want to know if that is the same thing as a nachapi. Yes, it is. Now, nachapi is an Afrikaans term which means night, nach, api, ape, basically. Api is the diminutive form, so small night ape. I suppose it would be called. We call them bush babies or galagos. Galago is the more kind of biologically correct term. I like the word galago. I think it's got a really nice kind of ring to it. And that's where Galago Camp here at Djuma gets its name. And there are a number of, we get two species here. That's the lesser Galago or lesser bush baby. We also get the thick-tailed bush baby. Not very common in this particular area, but they are around. Especially won't be common during the drought time. And if you do lose my sound every so often, because the Spice Girls microphone is creeping up to stick in my eye. Now, easy. You're asking about pangolins, of course, which is another very characteristic nocturnal animal. Easy, in 15 years out here, I have seen 2 pangolins. So I'm afraid I haven't seen many, and I don't think I've seen any in the Sabi Sands. And you want to know they live in burrows? They do during the course of the day, but they don't have to, of course, because they've got those scales. And then you want to know... Sorry, I've been inundated by spiderlings parachuting about the place. You want to know if they move around on 4 legs or just on the back too. Easy, they spend most of their time, I believe, on 4 legs, but if they have to move quickly, you'll probably find that they will come up a little bit and spend less time. They'll kind of just float along on their front legs, but they definitely do move on 4 legs. Now, a pangolin, for those of you who are perhaps new viewers and don't know, well, I mean, we're all new viewers on the night drive, really. A pangolin is the most closely obvious mammal from North America, or from the Americas, would be the armadillo. But it doesn't look like an armadillo at all, but it has got very hard keratinous scales. Zebra running across the road. I'm not going to shine on him. We don't have the same camera that Brent does, so we have to be quite careful about what we shine on. And it looks basically like a long, very scaly, prehistoric mammal, and they're very, very ancient. There are very few that belong to the family, and we only get one example out here. It's a bit of a nip in the air, Bryan.
Don't worry, I've got jackets.
Yes, we've got jackets. Jackets. Bryan has got jackets, not just one jacket. Now, Lauren, we were talking about snakes a little bit earlier, and you want to know if it's a possibility that they could fall out of a tree onto my lap, and possibly give my inner thigh a bite that I wouldn't necessarily appreciate. Lauren, the chances of a snake falling out of a tree are very slim. I don't think it would make any difference whether it was at night or during the day. Snakes are extremely, I nearly said sure-footed, but of course course that's ridiculous, given that a snake doesn't have a foot. But they are very sure of their movements in trees, and they wouldn't climb trees unless they weren't. Not all species of snakes, of course, climb trees. Out here you'd have a Wium slug, or tree snake, appropriately is a pretty good in a tree. A vine snake, which is a relative of the Wium tree snake, they like to climb trees. The black mamba is a very adept tree climber, but you won't see them in a tree at night. They will most likely be in a termite mound somewhere, enjoying the warmth provided by the insulated mound. And I've seen cobras climbing in trees. Again, very few will actually rest in a tree. I've seen plenty of vine snakes and tree snakes that rest in trees. The rest will normally be down. Spotted bush snake, which is totally harmless. They also might be in a tree at night time. Now our plan from here is to head to Buffelshoek Dam, see what we can find there. Buffelshoek Dam is not a dam anymore so much as a pile of clay. Right. Now what we're going to do is turn all of the lights off, Bryan. And we're going to go across to Brent Leo Smith. Now, the camera is still on. It is filming as we speak, and it is filming.
Pitch dark. The only light is a little bit of light that's emulating off my monitor, and I can just make out where the lions are, but if I didn't know they were lions, they would look like logs. But now as we swing the camera around, there we go. We can see that those are definitely not logs. And with hires, we are going to get quite a lot of grain, which is what you're experiencing now. And also it might look a bit slow, and we're on a very slow shutter speed at the moment, so we're just fiddling and testing and seeing how far we can actually push this camera. So this is just off the ambient light, and this is even without a moon. This is just the light filtering through from the clouds, and you can see that orange glow in the distance there. Now that's obviously human habitation, but I can't see that glow really with my naked eye. And there we go. Wium's put on one of the big diffusing lights. Now that, I can still barely see the lions with that light on, even though it looks very, very bright in my monitor. You can see the bugs flying through the lights, various moths. And lions doing what lions do best. Snooze. So, good evening to Angie in Wisconsin, and it seems I'm going to have a serious word with the man who lives in Los Angeles about giving me the nickname Wild Spice, because Angie is now using it as well. Tisk, tisk. Shame on you, Angie. Angie would like to know, are the lions roaring because there are other lions around, or do they just roar sometimes? I don't think there are any other prides that close to here or around. I did hear what sounded to be a male lion calling to the north of us, but I think they're just roaring as a test as well. Obviously, it helps to always double check by roaring. If there's another pride close by, they will generally roar back or move away quickly. So I think they're just roaring because that's what lions do, and just making sure no one else is creeping in on their territory. Well, let's go have a look at the fifth lioness. Maybe she... Okay, so we need to change the battery on this camera. That is one of the limitations we're dealing with at the moment. So we're going to have to jump across to James while Wium changes batteries.
Now we have not arrived at Beefleshoek Dam yet. We are driving along the Beefleshoek cut line though, so to the north of us is Beefleshoek, and to the south is Jumar, and Brent is just changing his battery. I'm sure he told you that. Nice that you have the lions. I think, you know, the whole thing with the thermal imaging drone, now I don't know how many of you were watching yesterday, but I mean the idea is that eventually that will be a permanent fixture on any kind of after hours activity that we do. And the thing with that thing is that I was sitting in the tent watching the shots that you were watching, and it spots things amazingly easily. And so while Brent managed to find the lions because we saw them on the drive earlier today, if he had gone towards, if we had gone out and we didn't know where any lions were, that drone would have found them within 5 minutes. And then you can call in the vehicles. So that drone is going to be a very important part of what we do, because of course we cannot track like this. I cannot see tracks on the road except that piece of dung. Now, Angie in Wisconsin, this is the very last time that I'm going to respond to this name. You have called me Hairy Spice, which is what Brent Leo Smith decided my name was. Brent Leo Smith, of course, has an utterly appalling sense of humour, and so to call me Hairy Spice of all the things he could have, I think is very nasty indeed. Angie, I will answer your question only once, having been called Hairy Spice. You want to know what the most common snake we might see out here would be at this time of night? Angie, at this time of night it would be a boomslang or tree snake. It would be the most common, I think. Then in winter, or getting into winter, what you'll find is some of the snakes will come out onto the road, like a puff adder, for example. They will come and spend time on the road just to absorb the heat. So a puff adder you might see, but I think, you know, it's been so warm of late that they don't need to come out onto the road to warm up at all. So Angie, that would be the snakes that we'd most likely see now. Of course, the other thing that we can see, and the master of this, of course, is Scott Dyson, but we could perhaps on a tree like this, and I should have borrowed his infrared ultraviolet torch, but a tree like this, a knobthorn tree, might have many scorpion sitting inside the crevices in its bark, like that one there where I'm shining. I don't think there is a scorpion in there, but that's where you might find one. We'll just go down the I don't mean to laugh, but I'm always fascinated by how people perceive what we do, and it's because I've got so used to what we do that when I hear perspectives of what we do, it becomes quite difficult to understand, but it's perfectly reasonable. Now, Sparkle, you are obviously a first-time viewer, and you're asking, are we in a kind of large zoo where it's open air and the animals have been trained not to harm human beings, and that's how we can drive around in this open vehicle? No, Sparkle, that is not what it's like at all. We're in the Kruger National Park, and the Kruger National Park is one of the most iconic game reserves in the world. Now, I assume you're talking to us from the US. Now, if you consider Yellowstone National Park, your wonderful national parks that you have there, it's exactly the same, except obviously it's not filled with bears and wolves and bison. It's filled with our African animals, impala, zebra, lions, leopards, buffalo, elephant, those sorts of species, those iconic African species. They are not trained in the slightest. You cannot train a leopard to do anything. You cannot train a lion to do anything. Well, you can if you raise it from a cub, but none of that's happened here. It's a totally natural, wild system. They don't see us, especially in the vehicle, as a threat, so we can drive around here and yes, we are careful around things, big things like elephants, but we can absolutely view things in safety because animals don't see us as a threat, A, or B, something to eat. Thank you, Sparkle. Please keep watching. I think you're going to have a fascinating time with us. Join us in the day, of course, as well, when we can actually see something. Hello, Tom. You're on YouTube in New York, and you want to know about an anteater and whether we've seen any here and can you see one. I'm assuming you're going to mean an ant bear or aardvark. Now that's a big pig-like animal with a long snout, almost hairless, very robust, digs for termites and ants. And it does look relatively similar to that kind of very common, or not very common, but quite well-known South American anteater. I think it's called a tapir. I think that's what it's called. Very similar kind of design out here. And yeah, the chances of seeing one are good at this time of the night. I've only ever seen them sort of after 10 o'clock at night, but I mean, it's not impossible that we should see them now. And so yes, Tom, keep watching. We might be very lucky. And Henry, you're just 10 years old and you live in Colorado. I have some friends in Colorado, Henry. And you were also asking about aardvark or anteaters, ant bears. And yes, we might see one. Of course, yeah, I mean, we're very new at this kind of night drive thing with the camera. And so we'll do our best to find whatever we can. The trees remain, they're easy to spot. Now Wayne, you're on YouTube and you're asking about flying foxes. Now to some of you that might seem like a completely ridiculous question because we know that foxes don't fly. But Wayne, they do fly, as you well know. Not all foxes fly, and a flying fox is actually a kind of squirrel. Now, we don't get them here. As far as I'm aware, they're either found in South America or possibly in Asia, in one of the two places, the flying fox. Now, a flying fox, if you have ever seen those not slightly insane, utterly mad human beings who leap off mountains wearing those, what they call squirrel suits. And it's a suit where there's a kind of membrane between the arms and the legs that allows them to glide. Well, I mean, glide is a very strong word. There's an owl. I'm going to get back to the story of the insane people now in the squirrel suit. There's an owl on the ground just in front of my spotlight. Now, Lucy, you wanted to see an owl. I think it's there. It's not an owl. It's a red-crested korhaan. You see, now I'm not even going to say sorry for misidentifying that bird because it's very dark. Now, that squirrel suit, which allows you to sort of glide if you happen to be in need of medication for insanity, you can jump off a mountain in them and you can glide about the place with the GoPro camera on your head, and if you're lucky you won't be pasted to the side of the mountain, you've just jumped off. But a flying fox is a squirrel with that kind of, with a membrane that extends between the forelimbs and the hind limbs, and that's how they kind of glide from tree to tree. So they'll climb up a tree, they'll walk to the edge of the branch, leap off it, and they kind of glide across to the next tree. They always lose height and they'll climb up again and do the same thing. So they only occur in forests, and that's what a flying fox is. Oh, now apparently flying foxes are in fact in Australia. So I'm going to assume they found in Asia as well, in Southeast Asia, probably in Indonesia, around the forests that they have there. Not in South America. I don't know if you get them there in South America as well. So thank you, Wendy, for that update. Now, the other thing I do want you to notice as we drive along here is how the leaves on these trees are already turning autumn colors. Now, in February, that's just ridiculous. This tree here, for example, has got almost no leaves on it. It's decided that this growth season is a waste of time. It's going to drop all its leaves and hold on for better times. Now, that doesn't mean the tree's dying at all. It just means that it's going dormant. Thank you very much, Rosie St. Lamb. You say I'm not only a hairy spice, I am all kinds of spice. Thank you very much, Rosie. Now, Bryan, do you agree? Definitely. Thank you, Bryan. You didn't say that with a great deal of conviction. Let's head across to Brent and see what the lions are doing. See what goes down.
So, the lions aren't doing much, but as I shone my spotlight around, I spotted a little hawk moth sitting on the quarry bush, and its eyes actually shine at night. It's a medium-sized hawk moth. We've got a lot of them at the moment. And at night, while you're trying to have even a sip of water, they actually try to climb into your glass. That's how dry it is at the moment. And they're out seeking any forms of moisture. This one might be laying eggs, or might have laid eggs on a gory. They like to lay their eggs on the underside of leaves. But so we're sitting with one tiny little diffused light on at the back, and I can barely see. I can't actually see that hawk moth at all. And then just a little bit off to the left is the 5th Nkuhumas. Hi, Tony, who's joining us from the UK, London, on this nighttime adventure. And Tony, I haven't had any scary moments with cats in the dark. She says, looks really spooky being out there in the dark with these cats. So they behave very similarly to what they would during the day. Actually, exactly the same as that they would to the day in terms of their taking a notice of the vehicle and us. They just like to sleep a lot, which lions do regularly. And we were hoping we might find them moving a little bit tonight. And I don't think they're going to. So let's move back to the 4 ladies. And then give it another 5 minutes. And if nothing, I think we might go for a little... Now, this is actually the scary part. Not the fact the lion's there, it's that I was about to drive because I'm looking at my monitor saying, oh, we can see everything. But I can't see where I'm going. Wide berth. So if the lions don't move in the next sort of 5 or 6 minutes, what I think what Wium and I discussed is we're going to go try and find one of those other little creatures that we don't actually see too often, such as a civet or a genet. Serval, there we go, or serval. I know lots of people want to see serval. I think. Oh, how's that for time? Hello. I think she heard me. Let me turn this off. Let's get round. She's going to go join the other 4. Could this prompt a little bit of lion movement now? So again, just the one light on. And the rest of them. Going to say hello. So the one with her ears up there at the moment is the sub-adult. And is it time to start the nocturnal meander or nocturnal hunt? No, she's just, the other one's laid down just out of sight there. Thought they might at least get some grooming. It doesn't look like they're quite ready to move yet. So we'll stay here for a little bit longer. Maybe we'll get some more roaring. And these are truly, truly flat cats at the moment. Now that would change in a second if something happened to meander here. Nice dark night. I think they probably would like a little bit more wind if they are to hunt. help disguise any noises and smells. I mean, listening out for nocturnal birds, I haven't heard any yet. So you can see we don't have that heavy panting that you see during the day. And Bill in Tennessee is saying, wonders if the cool weather at night is what makes the change. That is spot on, Bill. So that's also why lions tend to move around a lot more at night, although these particular cats are not doing any moving.
I'm not sure what happened with Brent there. The wild spice. Yes, wonderful that he's given himself that name. I'm looking in this tree because I was rather hoping to find a scarpion. But alas, my scarpion finding skills need work, especially in the face of those possessed by Mr. S. Dyson, currently languishing at home. Anyway, sorry about that. Nothing there. We're nearly at Ethan's Dam. Just to make sure I don't slam anything in the door. There we go. I haven't driven Jigger for a long time. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that the experience is tremendously pleasurable. She has a mind of her own, you see, like a recalcitrant old bag. In fact, entirely senile. She likes to kind of drive off the road and she likes. It's very disconcerting. So if the picture's getting a bit jumpy, everybody, sorry about that. There is a little bit of a problem with the repeater at Gowrie. We are trying to fix it. Alex, the Russian. Look, Bryan, look at all the activity here.
Sure. It's amazing, Jay.
You don't know where to look, do you?
No, there's too much to see. So follow your spot map around.
The poo-poo. Right, I'm going to come down this way towards us. Scanning to the left. I'm going to assume that we're still black screen. What do you think, Bryan? We'll avoid saying any naughty words, though, in case we are not black screen.
Indeed.
When I was driving in the dark, I heard the call of the Lord. The bird was shouting, flying around, I don't know where the stars. Landing on the shore, Bryan followed with the camera. Lying on the shore, looking for things to eat. When I was driving in the dark, I tried to find getting out of found, don't understand. Get my fire down. We're gonna drive along to the center of the sun. Are we live? Ah. sorry about that, everybody. We were under the impression that we weren't live. Luckily, Bryan and I kept that song very clean. The song, of course, was not particularly brilliant, but I do find that Bryan is able to... He just starts these beats, and it's impossible not... And anybody who refers to what we just did there as the Spice Girls song, you'll any second now. About that, everybody. Out a buffalo thorn, vicious thorns, tear the flesh off you. You're right there?
Yep.
Well done, stout fellow. Oh, sorry, yes, of course, we left those birds there. Those were water dickops. We didn't think you could see them, so we thought we'd head into a position where we thought you would be able to see them. We would normally sing, of course, during the course of a live broadcast. That's not considered good practice. Nothing more to say about that. We're going to head off towards the lions now. Oh, look at this, Bryan. Now, what I'm going to do is I put this other light in there. Better light.
Yeah.
We go back a bit and we'll put the diffused light on. There's going to be a nice light for this spider. How's that? Oh, look at that. Now, very, very few of these around this year on account of the lack of rain. This is a particularly beautiful example of the golden orb web spider. Well, they, of course, have no problem with us shining on them because that attracts insects, which will in turn get stuck in the web, which will in turn be devoured by the female golden orb web spider, and that's what that is. I tell you what would be really quite nice here is that green laser pointer that Brent has got. And if you look to the, if you pretend that the spider is the middle of the clock, if you look towards, pretend that's a clock face facing us, if you look towards 9 o'clock now, you can see a movement. Now, that's it. Bryan's got it in the middle there. There, moving down now. It's another little spider. And every so often you'll see it glint in the light. And that there, you can see it glinting there. It's a little mercury drop spider or dewdrop spider. And that is a kleptoparasite. It is stealing little bits and pieces of food that golden orb web spider has gone to great trouble to kill herself. And then oh, there's a moth about to fly in. No, managed to escape. But I'm not seeing any of the males. Now the males are sort of miniature versions of the female there, and I wonder, given the lack of insects and therefore the lack of food for her, whether she hasn't in fact devoured the male. That is the fate of a male spider. And then underneath her, sort of extending like a hand towards 6 o'clock, is a great collection of the exoskeletons of her victims. And I think much like the stabilimentum, which is a zigzag patterning on a garden orb-web spider nest, that is to prevent things like birds flying into the nest. She is not going to eat a bird, and she definitely doesn't want a bird flying through that web because it'll obviously destroy it. So we think that that sort of collection there of exoskeletons of her previous victims has some kind of function that helps birds to see the web and therefore they won't fly through it and destroy it. It is a remarkable, remarkable collection of silk that. They're not the neatest builders of webs, but it is just incredible. And of course that is the strongest known substance to man. Stronger than Kevlar. Okay, we're going to head towards the lions. Brent has had no luck with his signal. That's not Brent's fault, of course. That's the guy. Great confidence is on his way there to see what is going on. Gonna have to get through this dodgy signal area, everybody, so stop speaking and drive quite quickly. To the lions, we're within range of what we call the mast, which is basically sitting on the heads of the directors. Sitting in the director's chair this evening, of course, is Nicola Austin, and I think she's being ably assisted, well, I hope ably, by Kirsten McLennan Smith. Now, I'm told, I've suddenly heard that a flying fox is in fact an enormous bat, and it is distinct from a flying squirrel. And that is Eric Gerwin who said that. Thank you very much, Eric. I'm going to do some research on that because it certainly wasn't my understanding, but that is entirely possible that I'm completely wrong. Thank you very much for that, Eric. We're on a road called Central now, heading now towards the Jumadam Pan. And of course, we don't want to drive too fast to get to those lions. I don't think the lions are doing anything. Brent will stay there with them just to see what happens. But we also don't want to miss any delightful night delights. Now I can perfectly understand this question from Antelope. Antelope, you want to know if there are any antelope that we can view at the night time? Antelope? No, there aren't actually. Because they're all diurnal, which means they're all active during the daylight. They're not active at night. And they tend to be, I'm not actually convinced that this is true, but they tend to get very startled by the lights. And, I mean, they're startled all the time, but they are stunned by light. And, I mean, I know that even those of you who don't live in Africa, you know that a moose or a deer might come running across the road into the lights of a sort of moving vehicle. Now, I'm not so worried about that happening, but we do think that the lights affect the diurnal animals a bit more negatively than they do the nocturnal ones. So that's why we don't shine on them. I'm not convinced it has a worse effect on their eyes or a deleterious effect on their eyes any more than it might on some of the predators. And I'm not convinced that it actually has a very deleterious effect on anything's eyes. But that's why we don't shine on them, the diurnal animals. It also, because they're at a disadvantage in the night, we don't want to sort of temporarily blind them. Now, a nice question here from Charlotte in Port Elizabeth. Now, Port Elizabeth, Charlotte, of course, I think I've told you before, is just near where me old mum and dad live. And Charlotte, you want to know if it is slightly more dangerous to see, or risky to see elephants. There's a scrub hare, Bryan. Stand still, scrub hare. There we go. Now, if ever you've wondered the difference between a hare and a rabbit before, there you've just seen it. A rabbit would have hopped behind that bush. That scrub hare walked behind the bush. Very common difference. Charlotte, yes, it is. Elephants at night can be a little bit more risky, simply because they don't like the lights. They get a bit of a fright. So we wouldn't view elephants at night. We'd just move away from them. And of course, their eyes are a bit like ours. Now, it's a bit like somebody sneaking up on you in the darkness. It can give you a bit of a fright, and so yes, we can try and stay away from the elephants at night. You can. I mean, if there was some, say, in front of us there, we would gently drive past them. I wouldn't stick the light on them like that. We'd just drive gently past, maybe flick off those switches like that, just to make it less blinding, especially for the little ones. But it's not, I mean, it's certainly not dangerous, but it's a little bit more risky. There are some more scrub hares, Brian. I think we just caught them, you know. I think we caught them in the act. Doing what this kind of animal does best. Isn't that interesting? Look at them, his beautiful sighting. Now that is not using the spotlight. That is just using the light, the wash light, of the side of the car. So they're much more likely to just get on with life than they would be in the light of the yellow spotlight. Now, while we're watching these little scrub hares, which I think are rather special creatures, Keegan at UCT, the University, Keegan with a K, at UCT, University of Cape Town, which is, of course, where I was once a student. You want to know about brown hyenas and if we've seen any in the Sabi Sands lately? No, not for a while, Keegan. The last one, I think, was seen by Peter Pretorius in 2009, so that's some time back. Let me just move this light so we can get a full view of them there. Now, they can definitely tell now that the light is following them, and that's why they're darting around like that. Isn't that a lovely sighting? Don't see them in the day, and they don't make burrows like rabbits. They go into something called a form, which is just a hollowed out piece of vegetation. Right, get on. We're not too far from the lions now, probably still about 5 minutes. Now, I'm trying to bend my microphone close to my face. Apparently I'm a bit difficult to hear. Unfortunately, I don't actually have a lobe to my ear. So, Bryan, if you can see there, you'll see I don't have a hole there. You see that?
Almost there.
Yep. There, you see I have defective ear. It doesn't come away from the face, which means that on the other side, this thing keeps coming out.
I just hold it in my mouth like that. How does that sound, right? You think that sounds good? Oh, that sounds good. Okay, excellent. Let's just try along like this. Wonderful.
I hope Brent didn't do that with this thing. I'll have a disease. Are we going across the Djuma Dam pan? Now, Ramey, yes, absolutely. Very good question. And it leads to an interesting topic. So I'm not going to look at you as I go over the dam here. I'm terrified I might drive off it. Ramey, in San Diego, you want to know if a bush baby or galago would have more trouble finding insects at this time of the year than it would otherwise. Bryan, that is a duiker, is it not?
Yep.
It is. The duiker in the middle of the dam, which we will not shine our light upon. There is also a beefalo. I'm not going to shine on him either. Ramey, yes, definitely, unquestionably, bush babies are going to struggle more to find insects in the drought, simply because there aren't that many insects. And we know that because we are not being hit. I mean, Bryan and I were just saying as we drove out of here, you know, the temperature is very pleasant. And it's even more pleasant because there aren't insects assailing our nostrils, ears, mouths, and any other orifice you might have. There would be, in a normal year, you would be covered in them. In fact, they'd be in my hair, they'd be tearing towards the lights. And Ramey, the bush babies are having the same experience, enjoying the temperature, not enjoying so much what there is to eat. But of course, as with a number of animals out here, they're resorting to what would be winter tactics, and they will now spend more time on the acacia trees trying to get acacia bark and not bark, acacia gum, which is what they focus on in the winter when there aren't any insects anyway. And it's a bit the same as the, I just want to get past these impala, it's a bit the same as the elephants, which would be grazing normally at this time of year, but they obviously can't be doing that now. Sorry, you just got to get past the impala. You see how stunned they got by the light there. And the elephants are now eating bark and twigs and leaves as they would be in the winter. Now, of course, that does beg the question as to what on earth they're going to eat during the winter months. I don't know. It does remain to be seen. Now lost the final control. There we go. They're back in my ear. What I find, Brian, is that it sticks to my stubble a bit. Maybe I should grow a bit of a thicker beard, then we could sort of weave this Madonna microphone into it. I'm sure Scott has no problem with this mic. Probably fits very neatly into his barkie. Now Brian is, I think Brent is going to leave the lions, which is a bit distressing. Nicola, I'll be there in 3 minutes. If they're still flat cat, then that's fine. I'm just talking to Nicola so that she might relay that to Brent. I'm just going to drive a little bit faster so that we can get there and have a little bit of a lion sighting. Some impala on the clearing here. So I will tell you if we go past an antelope, of course, but I'm not going to sort of shine on it and point it out to you. I'll just tell you about it. You'll have to believe me. So we've just gone past a herd of sable antelope. There was some eland there, also some sesame and hartebeest. Unusual antelope, of course, but we can't shine them. For those of you who watch regularly, I'm obviously talking nonsense. Those antelope do not occur in this area. Right, let me hail Brent Leo Smith on the Game Drive channel. Brent Leo Smith coming. I will put the microphone next to my mouth.
Hi, James. If you coming from Sandy Patch Winterland, but almost all the way to Sydney, and then lying up just to the west of the road in the open in most of the quarries.
Okay, copy, thanks. Alright, so he just told me where the lions are. We'll head towards them. That is not an interesting creature of the night on the road. It is a piece of stick. I think deposited there by an elephant. Alright, Brent has got some signal now, so let's head across to him. He can give you an update as to what he's doing. There's some hyena tracks on the road. We're not going to follow them. I will see you at the lions.
So, unfortunately, we've lost our Gary repeater. And this vehicle unfortunately doesn't get signal where we were with the lions. So they did move a little bit, so we just sat there. They've gone flat cat again, so James is on his way there now. And we're going to go try and find some of the smaller, interesting animals that we get out here. Hopefully a bit bigger than a hawk moth though. So I think I'm really hoping we at least get a civet, or even maybe a genet would be really cool. So James Richard says a chameleon is his request for the Moonlight Drive. Well, I think we'll be quite lucky if we spot one. Not too many about in the drought. We're going to check very carefully, not worry. What was that? I just saw a flash of an eye down the road. I'm going to get Wium to have a look with the camera. So there is an animal there. We're just doing some tests again with the forward a bit, to the left slightly. Now there is an animal down there. Can you see the eye yet?
I see nothing.
Okay. I don't know if you guys in final control can see the eye. I can just see it on my monitor. It looks like a waterback. Yes. if I put a bit more light, there we go. A male waterbuck lying down. Now that's probably 70 meters from us. And so if I turn the lights off again, will be? There we go, you can just see that eye sticking out. So I can't actually see that eye in the dark, but at least the camera can. There we go. So we are going to be doing some funny stuff like that. Just seeing how far we can push the camera. Wium is dead set on a serval. That's what he wants from this nocturnal excursion. Or a civet. And Jamie and I actually had a really wonderful view of a civet on our way home the other night, between DRC and Ingers. So between the drives, we did have dinner, and I can't remember just offhand who asked what we had for dinner. Dylan in Iowa asked what we had for dinner. So Dylan, tonight we had a very traditional South African meal. Well, the meat at least. It's called boerewors, which basically translated means farmer sausage. We weren't eating farmers, of course, but it's a very traditional South African. We got the nightjars there, Willie, in the road. Very traditional South African sort of form of sausage. Here we go. We got asked about nocturnal birds, and there we can watch one hawking, catching insects. Oh, now for the birders, this is where life becomes tricky. Very difficult to actually identify different nightjars without actually catching them. But I saw white windows in the tail feathers, which is one of the ways to identify them. I'm trying to sneak a little bit closer. Hopefully it doesn't fly off too far. Oh, there we go. I'm sure hopefully we'll find another one, but my guess, just looking at, it's going to land in the road in front of us again. Oh, just off the road. Darn it. Let's have a look. No, he's taken off. Unfortunately, hopefully you'll find another one. But just looking at those big white windows in the wing and in the tail, of course this is not one for the bird list because we didn't 100% identify, but I would go with a fiery necked nightjar. Now, one of the funniest things for those of you who watch movies and even a TV series in the US, a lot of noises are actually just stored in this big database. And I missed that one. Dada was actually asking about the nightjars. Hopefully we will find another one. And now, I can't remember what movie it was or what it was, but it was set in the deep south of the US, and everyone was sitting on the porch, you know, in this sort of, I presume it had that sort of very sweltery, very humid, very hot sort of feel about it. And it was one of the first times, I think I was about 15 or 14, that I noticed it. That, oopsie. Let's try and find this now. I'm just trying to find the call for you. There we go. And let's go down. There we go. And why are you being difficult now? Oh, let's see. Okay. So we've got that here, and oh no, that's the wrong nightjar. That's a Mozambique nightjar, or a square-tailed nightjar. We used to call them generator birds when we were little. sounds like a generator. And I grew up in a lot of safari camps where we had no electricity, so we only used to run the Jenny for 6 hours a day. And depending on how much appliances were on, it would change pitch. But that's not the call I was looking for. We want that one. Why can't we select that one? I don't know why my app is being a bit difficult. Maybe I'm pushing the wrong place. Freckled. Let's try it. Turn it, maybe. There we go. And there we go. This is the call. A very synonymous sound with Africa. And as I said, I was about 14 or 15 watching this TV or a movie, or was a movie set in the deep south of America, and suddenly this fiery neck nightjar comes on their ambient tracks. Obviously someone in the movie industry has said, oh, that sounds nice, and it sounds like a very nighttime sound. So if you listen carefully in a lot of movies that are not in Africa, you find the fiery neck nightjar calling in the background. So the reason we see chameleons at night, although I will try, but I don't know if we're going to find one tonight, is that they come out very white in the spotlight. They also like to sleep on the peripheries of the branches, making them a lot easier to spot than during the day. Unfortunately, a jigger doesn't have signal where the lions are either. So that's very sad, but we will be out again tomorrow afternoon on the sunset safari. Hopefully you'll be able to find the Nkuhumas then. So we're going to head now towards quarantine clearings and see what's out and about in the open and see how far we can push this camera. Who's a new viewer? Sparkle. I would show you the twinkling and sparkling stars if we could, but alas, the cloud is out tonight. But Sparkle would like to know, are there any giraffe here, and do we ever show them? There are, and we do, Sparkle. We just haven't happened to encounter one yet. We don't normally show them at night, but then we don't normally show zebra at night. But if we do come across them with this new camera we're testing out tonight, we will definitely show you the giraffe. So Sparkle, if you want to see a giraffe, you should join us on the normal safaris, which are in the daylight hours out here. And they start at, what time do we start now, Wium? 5:30? Yeah. We start at 5:30 Central African time, normally, except for tomorrow, because we're out late tonight. We'll be having a sleep in. And then they end at 8:30 Central African time, and then they start again at 4 p.m. Central African time and end at normally 7 p.m. Central African time. So Sparkle, if you really want to see a giraffe, I suggest that's when you should tune in and join us. Oh my goodness, James Richard owes me huge. The tiniest chameleon in the world. I don't even know how I spotted that. Is it? Or was it just a funny leaf?
No, that's good.
It is a chameleon. That is... It is tiny. Tiny, tiny, tiny little chameleon. see him sitting there. Now, to give you an idea of size, I'm just going to jump out and put my finger next to it. That is definitely the smallest chameleon I've seen this year. Oh, there's thorns all over here. Be careful. So, I mean, look, there's my baby finger behind this little guy. Look how tiny it is. Isn't that incredible? Having a snooze, and he's actually going to get more green the longer the light stays on him. So there we go. Request met.
Just be careful, you're going to get eaten by a honey badger.
Yeah, if Wium says I must be careful getting out of the car at night, I might get eaten by a honey badger. How cool was that? That was the most minute little chameleon. Oh dear. Did I take my... Yep, it's walking with me. I think I might have. Uh-oh. Oh no, I've changed the position of it. I forgot. Here we go. So I actually did not think we were going to find a chameleon this evening, but fortunately we did. Now let's see if we can find a scorpion. So we only get one species of chameleon in this area. It is called the flap-necked chameleon. It's my pleasure, James, and his request for this, well, it's supposed to be moonlight safari, but there's no moonlight about, was a chameleon. And that was the smallest of the small. So I said about what we had for dinner, and Pinky Swear would like a little bit more detail. I said it is a traditional South African sausage. It's basically translated to boerewors, which means farmer's sausage. And she'd like to know what's in it. Well, I think the joy of most sausages is you don't know what's in it. With boerewors, it's mostly beef mince with eyes. Let's have a look what that was. Beef mince with various herbs and spices. There's eyes there, I just want to check down. It could have been. Make sure there's nothing down that open area before we carry on. It's a bush baby again. Another bush baby, but this one is a little bit far off the road. So we're going to leave him be. Now I'm really hoping there's going to be a civet or a white-tailed mongoose about on the quarantine clearings. Susie agrees with Wium and also wants a serval. Now, I've seen serval since in the year I've been here 4 times, and I've only seen them once and only managed to get it on camera once. So I would also love a serval, and I'm trying to be realistic at the moment, Susie. And we've got a really good chance at a civet or a white-tailed mongoose. Maybe a hyena. Okay, so I have spotted some animals in the distance. There's some wildebeest, but we're not going to put the light on them. I will try to go a bit closer to them with this camera when we get round to them. something small. The bottom of that thicket was just a lying down. Oh no, it's a lying down wildebeest. I got really excited there for a second. Oh, there we go. Well, here's a nocturnal creature. There we go. Turn the lights off. A little scrub hares. You saw them a little bit earlier with James, but now I'm looking at them in near dark. We're just playing with the camera settings a bit. And then if we pan off to the left, oh no, Wium's going all the way dark. We're just testing the camera. You can see it gets a little bit pixelated. I don't know if we're going to get a hare. What do you think, Wium? Here we go. So the only light that's creating all this light you're seeing here is a bit off the monitor. I think the scrub hairs are just that little bit too small. But off to the left, Wium, there were zebra about there. Back to the right slightly. I think there was a zebra, oopsie, around there somewhere. We'll turn the light on. There we go. You can see them now. The eyes in the distance. Now that is completely black for me. I cannot see those animals without looking into the monitor. So, that was actually wildebeest there, but there were some zebra around as well. And we put the light on a bit more. Now I can't see those wildebeest. Those wildebeest are in the dark for me. And from what I'm seeing literally pitch black where those wildebeest are. Maybe I can't even make up the outline of a wildebeest.
I can see the spots in their eyes.
And well, from where Wium is, he's behind the big light. He can actually just see their eyes, but I can't even see that from where I'm sitting. Okay, let's see what else is out here on the clearings. You can see how white I'm looking now. There we go. And you can see James driving over there, trying to find my white-tailed mongoose before me. But I know where the den is, so we might go there quickly. And unfortunately no drone with us this evening. We needed to have a few modifications made before it comes back for another test in a few weeks. But wasn't that cool being able to see those animals come out so white? And that drone was sitting at 100 meters up in the air and was far from those animals, and we could see how they barely reacted. Yeah, now we're getting into white-tailed mongoose country. I can feel it in my bones. Oh, a splot of rain landed on my forehead there. So, wow, we're gonna go see what else we can find. Let's jump back on with James, aka Hairy Spice.
Right. Now, I think it's very distasteful that Brent Leo Smith has decided that he should be Wild Spice. In fact, I think it was one of you who decided that he should have the cool name Wild Spice. It's quite a cool name. Hairy Spice is inescapably uncool. He's called Jamie Chicken Spice, which is even worse than Hairy Spice. Buff Spice, I suppose, is quite cool as well. But Hairy and Chicken, not cool in the slightest. We are going to pack it in for the night. We're only operating off one repeater. That's like walking on one leg, which is of course impossible. You would be hopping if you were on only one leg. Now, just before I leave you, a question about what the word dodgy means. And that's from Anne in San Francisco. The word dodgy means questionable or suspect. So if I was to say that, well, Brent Leo Smith is a dodgy character, you'd know exactly what I meant. I would mean that Brent Leo Smith is a character of questionable sort of questionable motives and questionable activities. That's what dodgy would mean. Right, oh God. We're going to close down now before I run something over. Thank you for your questions. It's been lovely to be out here with you this evening, I must say. I've really enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm hoping to find an aardvark at some stage, but not tonight. Hopefully when we have a bit more signal. So big thanks to Nikki and Kirsty in the final control, and we're going to hand you back to Brenty and Wium for the last little bit. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Bye-bye.
So now, normally we would never put a camera on impala at night as it can blind them. But now, the majority of those impala, I can't even see. The ones, specifically these ones there, they're right in the dark. And it's just with this incredible... what ISO are we on, Wium?
40,000.
We're on 40,000 ISO. I know those of you who have a camera will know a little bit about taking pictures and will understand how incredible that is. We're on 40,000 ISO. I think my camera only goes up to 8,000. So we can, with a little bit of light coming off the back, we're able to see almost the whole clearing. And impala having their evening snooze and ruminating. So we've got a few more minutes and we're going to really try and find one more of those incredible little nocturnal creatures. I've checked my mongoose hole and unfortunately they're either sleeping in late or they've already come out. Just checking towards the pan. Looks like there's a diker on its way down there to drink, so we're not going to disturb him. I think we've got one last gander. Let's see if that civet that likes to hang around Inga's house sometimes is about. Now the thing is, the more and more we do the nocturnal safaris, the more we'll learn the habits of the different nocturnal animals here. And who knows, I know you can find genet dens and they're very, very awesome if you manage to find one of those. Also, a lot of the things like the civet and white-tailed mongoose will just get far more used to having vehicles out and about at night. Moment it's abnormal, and there's probably not another safari vehicle on drive at this very moment in the whole Sabi Sands. Cat in Tampa says, why are the lions sleeping with all this food around? Well, we're quite far from where we left the lions, Cat, but I'm sure they'll be up and moving at some point this evening, but they didn't look too hungry. They might have eaten something in the last day or two, so hunting not high on their priority at the moment, on their priority list at the moment. baby right at the top of this tree.
Next to the warburg's nest.
Yeah, right next to the Warburg's eagle's nest. He's coming down quickly though.
You take that light
Oh,
away.
sorry.
Oh.
Two.
Just a little bounce.
There he is. So these bush babies like to chew acacia gum. Oh, there's a big jump coming. Whoop, into the. There you go, and he's disappearing now. But so what's happened is that the bush baby's gone right to the top of this big acacia, right up there, and they'll have different spots where they chew on the bark, causing the acacia to produce gum, and they really like it. So they'll have sort of little favorite spots that they'll like to visit in a night, and can have very set routes when they go out foraging sometimes. So they will eat lots of insects as well as fruit and acacia gum and certain leaves. So we're just gonna go one last little. We're gonna try that last little spot. I was hoping for a civet or anything else really, and then we're gonna call it an evening. So we're nearly there. So fingers crossed, guys. Maybe we're gonna find some incredible little nocturnal creature before we head off to slumber. Come on. So this civet's route seems to come straight past behind our house here. I've seen them a couple of times at around this time of the evening. So, unfortunately, no civet, but Angie in Ohio, quickly before we say bon nuit, would like to know how far are the Nkuhumas from the dam camp she's going to be watching. Unfortunately, they are quite far from the dam camp, and I think they're going to go back to Sydney's waterhole rather. They're very close to there. So, well, thanks for coming on a behind-the-scenes adventure with us. In this video I'm showing you the dust and a spider web that is hanging from the microphone. But thanks for joining us on this nocturnal adventure, and hopefully a lot more adventures to come with a lot more exciting toys to play with. But anyway, we will not be on the sunrise safari. We will be having a little lion. Also, this is going to be my last drive. Well, I don't know what I'm flopping down now. And my last drive for a little while. I'm going to be heading out on leave tomorrow. I will still be around on Juma, but I won't be taking any of the safaris. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks. It's been great fun, and I can't wait to see you when I get back.